What's going on, world? And welcome back to the Pursuit of the Good Life podcast, your favorite self-help podcast that helps you increase your personal and professional life while you create your own version of the good life here every single Thursday. Welcome back, those of you who are recurring listeners. If you're new-time listeners, welcome to the podcast. How y'all doing today? I'm in a good mood today. I am recording this at the 9th hour. Literally, it's been kind of a long day for me, and I just didn't get around to recording the podcast episode earlier. So literally at the last minute, here I am recording this for you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. But first, I saw this post on social media, and I had to bring it to the podcast. It is this, I'll throw it on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube. For those of y'all listening, you're just going to have to miss out. But basically, the post went a little like this, that said, which guy loved his girl the most? And it's a whole bunch of movie characters with girlfriends and their wives, XYZ. Now, I'm not going to do the one gotta go, none of that. It is basically who went the hardest. And so I'm going to give my personal top 3. All right. So like I said, it's going to be on the screen, so you'll be able to see it and, cast your own personal vote. But my honorable mention, hands down, honorable mention. So I'm going to go honorable mention, then I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. Honorable mention is Steve Urkel and Laura. So the reason why is because it takes a special, special man to be rejected so many times and still have the love for the girl. Like it takes a special kind of man to really look at, the woman that he loves, the woman that he adorns, and, see her reject him and, want other guys and, all that. But he still wanted her, no matter what. He tried his best to get her, and I feel like he did in the end, but I don't know for sure. I forget how Family Matters really concluded, but so Steve Urkel and Laura Winslow, hands down, so honorable mention off the rip. So number 3 spot, I give it to Dominic Toretto because of the second to last movie. I think it was what is it? Fast. It was 8 of them. So there was Fast 7 when they found out that she was alive. And come to find out that, well, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, they was married. And so that's why he went so hard for her and wanted to make sure that, she was straight and, he was willing to die for her. But they had a long level of history. And the thing is, even when he was with another chick, he had found a whole new girl, well, to come to find out, he had a baby with that girl. But as soon as he found out Lenny was alive, all bets were off. That was it. He knew that was the love. The only reason I'm not with you is because I thought you died. And now that I know that you're alive, I'm gonna, oh yeah. So death do his part. I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. So yeah, Dominic Toretto, hands down, number 3, my pick. Now, the top 2. This is where it kind of gets a little dicey. So there might be some disagreements with this, but I'm gonna give it to Forrest Gump. Why? Because similar to Steve, not Steve. Forrest loved Jenny from the moment he saw her till the day that she died. He loved her through addiction, through traveling about the world, Jenny doing her own thing, getting her own sickness and disease, all that. And he still loved her. Now, mind you, of course, he was, mentally challenged, of course. But Forrest loved Jenny with no more. He loved her more than anybody else in this world. Dang near more than his mama. Really. And he just wrote to her every single day. Imaginary, I don't even know if the notes made it to him, but he wrote the letters anyway. This man loved her without a doubt. So my number two spot goes to Forrest Gump. And Jenny. Last but certainly not least, Noah in The Notebook. So when I was in high school, The Notebook was like the GOAT, like romance movie. Like it was like when you invite a girl over to the house, put on The Notebook and she'll like look at you with sympathy because it's the GOAT love story, right? And I have to agree, not just because of the generation I came in, but this man literally loved her to death too, but loved her even when she didn't even remember a clue of what he went through. And mind you, also, it takes a man, it takes a special type of man to get rejected. See the woman that you love with another man and still love her. Like, and still like want to be with her, like no matter what, and still like hold out hope. And it like I said, it just takes a special kind of love for that. I don't know if, like, especially at that in the beginning stages, that I ain't for that. So Noah in The Notebook, you are my number one spot. So quickly run down my list again. Honorable mention: Steve Urkel and Laura Winslow, Dominic and Lenny Toretto, Forrest and Jenny Gump, because they did, I guess, get married, and Noah from The Notebook. That is my top people for who love go the most. The fact that Jody from Baby Boy is on here is a joke to me, but that's just me. All right, let's get into the real topic. So I was going through some of my old footage of some of the programs that I've done, the speaking engagements that I did. In this particular video, well, this session, not necessarily just one video, but this particular session that I did with this group of students about legacy was what I was editing. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to explore legacy, but really we're going to dive into the family dynamics of your situation, right? And so one of my favorite therapy techniques is called a genogram. So a genogram is a technique that we use to help you reflect and explore what exactly is happening in your family tree. So it basically takes your family and puts it on a sheet of paper and connects the dots, you know, starting with you, going up through your siblings, to your parents, to your grandparents, all that, to really see kind of what's going on. And really to help the client kind of see also what's going on. And we ask questions and, make, diagrams and different things like that. Like I said, it's one of my favorite techniques. So this is what I kind of want to do because, I don't have the technology at the moment to draw a genogram on the screen for you guys, but I want to walk with you a bit through your own personal genogram and kind of what to start looking for. So today we're going real heavy on the personal. So the career, the business, all that, we're kind of putting that to the side for now. But today we're really focusing on reflecting on the family and how it's made you who you are today. So the first thing I want to talk about is I want you to look at the health in your family. The health. So if I'm being honest, the majority of my relatives, when you get to the older scenarios, they haven't really been in picture perfect health. So let me give you an example. So the eldest relative on my father's side was 90. Was my grandfather's mother. So my great grandmother, Minerva Lovelace. I think she lived to be about 94. Sounds right. 94. And then also Minnie Scott, which is my grandmother's mother. She lived to be, I think, about 93, 94 too. Now you're looking at it and you're like, oh, Kameron, that's great. They lived a long time, right? Yeah, they did, but I'm more concerned about kind of like the way that they went out. So personally, maybe this is just me, But when I eventually pass away after many, many, many long years on this earth, I hope that I go within my right mind. Just being honest, just within my right mind, that I'm not struggling to, go to the bathroom, living in a nursing home, needing somebody to physically like take care of everything. Like I can I can use some help around the house, but not to, wipe the crack of my butt. That's just me. Maybe I'm foolish thinking that, but that's just me. And the other side of it, so one grandmother, my father's grandmother, I think was starting to get to that point. She was overweight, of course. Like my grandfather told me stories, like they had chickens, they had all the type of thing. They got their own eggs, they grew their own gardens. Like it was back in the day when they took care of everything. And so I think, obviously we don't know about organic food. We don't know about, how bad stuff might be for you, refined sugar, alcohol, different stuff like that. But I don't think like she was in the best bill of health. Now I was young when she passed away. I was still, I think maybe 10, 11. So my memory of her are not as sharp, but my other grandmother who I talked about before, unfortunately, she had dementia in her last days. And that was really painful for her daughter. She had, Christine, Mary, Robin, Nellie, William. So 5 children in total. And I think that was really hard on them to see their mother really go through dementia and like forget faces, forget names, and all of that. And I think she also had a bit of breast cancer in the end too. So it was debilitating to watch, that. But, knowing that, it helps me be aware that, genetically, I could develop cancer. Now, the grandmother I just told you about, she was relatively healthy, like pretty healthy. I mean, diet-wise, she ate what she wanted to, but she swears by olive oil. Like she swallowed olive oil every day of her life, like a tablespoon of olive oil every day. And don't get me wrong, even though she was 90, she looked like maybe she was 70 or 60. Like she didn't look 90 at all. And before her last days of dementia, she was smart. She was there. She was coherent. She was able to talk. I mean, obviously, you know how old people get when they just want to really hear themselves talk and not really hear what you have to say or what you got going on. But we have to see what is going on in our family lineage as far as our health goes. So another example of this is my grandfather, who I've alluded to. So with my grandfather, he drank Canadian Club whiskey, I'd say on the daily. And so he was what I would call a functioning alcoholic without question. So he drank Canadian Club whiskey every day and also smoked cigarettes all the time, all day, every day. So it's no surprise that he developed cancer and died of cancer. And it was all in his lungs, it was in his kidneys, it was in his liver, and in his bones, right? And so what I can take away from that is, one, I have to be very careful of how my relationship with alcohol. Now, I do drink alcohol from time to time, but because of watching him, I don't want to say he was dependent, but I feel like he was dependent upon that buzz, that because the Canadian, I don't know those of you who've had Canadian Club whiskey, but Canadian Club whiskey is strong. And for him to drink it like water every day, literally, I kid you not, every day. It kind of just sticks with me that, if you partake in that every day, that can eventually become you. You can become literally a functioning alcoholic. Like, don't get me wrong, he wasn't like beating his kids or anything like that. He paid his bills on time. He had a place to stay, roof over his head, and all that. But I can honestly say he was an alcoholic without question, but he was a functioning alcoholic. And I don't want to become a functioning alcoholic, a functioning drunk who, people laughing at me because I'm drunk or I'm passing out on the couch because I've had one too many drinks, or I'm saying too much because I can't hold my liquor. Or when I drink, I start just flying off at the handle and stuff like that. But knowing that is in my family history, that helps me curb my relationship with alcohol. And it dang sure has made me avoid cigarettes, cigars, weed. Because from the moment I met my grandfather, as my first memory of him was him with a cigarette and that awful smell from the cigarette. And that turned me off from everything as far as smoking. So to this day, I've never done anything that is smoking related, from hookah to weed. I just haven't, because just for me, that isn't a good picture. I don't associate that with anything good. And so why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because I want you to look at your family history, from your parents to your aunts and uncles to your grandparents to your great grandparents. If you can get to them, if you can find out information, I want you to look at what's going on with their health and what can I learn from them. And if I need to make some changes, then let me make them now. Let me add more vegetables into my diet. Let me exercise more. Let me lay off on the alcohol. Let me get more sunlight. Let me, let me get more organic stuff. What is it that you can learn from their health habits? Because you have literally inherited their genes. So if you do the same behaviors that they did, chances are you will get the exact same results. The exact same results. And so for me, I don't want cancer. Seeing that cancer sucks. Seeing that my grandfather go through that, and then my great grandmother go through that. Yeah, it's ugly, and I don't want to go through that, and I don't want my kids and grandkids to see me go through that. I personally want to go out peacefully, so I want to make sure that health wise, I do what I can to take care of my body. If that means at the age of 50, I have to go and get my prostate checked, I'll do it. Right now, I'm not too fond of that, but I got to do what I got to do. I got to get my physicals. I got to make sure that my heart is intact, make sure my blood pressure is right, make sure I'm not getting diabetes, because that's in my family too, diabetes. But I got to make sure I can do what I got to do to not be afraid to go to the doctor and, keep up my bill of health. So next thing, when you are reviewing your family history, I want you to look at the wealth. Literally, your family's ability to generate wealth. So in the session that I was looking at while I was editing and cutting, I told the kids that it is literally how it's supposed to be. Is your parents get to a certain level, and you're supposed to stand on their shoulders to reach your heights. And then your children stand on your shoulders to reach their heights. And when I look at my own family history, I think that literally describes how my family dynamic has been. So I don't know much about my great grandmother, how she kind of started. I know that she moved to Arkansas for a little minute, then moved around to Illinois and stuff like that. But my great grands and my great grandfather on my father's side, they had like 14 kids, 14, living in probably like a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house. So a lot of people bunking up, a lot of people raising each other, just a lot of kids, man. And I can't imagine one having that many siblings, like 10 plus siblings. I can't imagine that right now. I just, my mind can't wrap around that. But in the 40s, in the 30s, when they were being raised, in the 50s, so Jim Crow prevalent, that many kids, you're farming, you're going to the railroads, you're just doing what you got to do to provide for your family so they can just eat, let alone go get an education. And so, my grandfather, who I got to know very well, was not college educated. He didn't go to college. He worked, went to college, went to the military, came back, worked, earned a dang good living. But like I think it was the next step for his family, was for him to go out, get a good job with benefits so that he can retire and drink whiskey as much as he wants and hang out with his grandkids, tell them old stories, and live out his last days peacefully. But the next step was, my father, first generation college student. I'm pretty sure first fully paid, like got his bachelor's degree in biology, went on to be a PT, physical therapy, started his own fitness business. And then after that comes me. Got his bachelor's, got his master's, becoming a therapist, starting his own business and looking to expand from there. So when I reflect over my family, as far as like when it comes to the ability to generate wealth, I see that it is a blessing for me now to say, wow, I was able to live a good life, a solid middle class, upper middle class lifestyle. Didn't want for food. Had both my parents in the background, had them be attentive and active in my life, was able to go to college on my own, like never not thought that I could go to college, never not thought that I could go get my master's, never not thought that I could do what I wanted to do for me, not for my family. And so when I review that, I look at it as just a great blessing for the journey that God has been with from the conception of my family to now. And so what I want you to do is really look at, more than just wealth. I know I'm talking about wealth and the ability to generate it, but really look back in your family history and see where like the family began. So for some of you, it might be immigrating from Ireland, immigrating from England, immigrating from Nigeria. Shout out to Nigeria, by the way. Let's make sure we end SARS. Immigrating from the islands of Bahamas or the Caribbean or South America or Native America, wherever your family inception came from. Really I want you to look back and see how far you in your generation has brought them compared to where they have been, and see what you can do to run the race as far as you can so that you give your kids a head start, because I dang sure want my sons and daughters to get a great head start, to get an awesome head start when it comes to financial resources. I don't want them to want for anything. Well, they can want stuff, but like, I don't want them to need for anything. I don't want them to, struggle with poverty or anything like that, because for me, that's going backwards. So for you, whatever your situation is, whether your family grew up in poverty, whether you're in poverty right now, I want you to say, how far can I stretch this race to make sure that the seed that's coming behind me gets the best head start that they can? That's what I want to challenge you to get them to. Now, the last part is it's a little complicated, and that is the relationship between generations. I want you to really look at that, because this is really the biggest key. So I heard a conversation from one of my great uncles. So my great uncle, he told me that yeah, I got a basketball scholarship. What do you mean you got a basketball scholarship? My uncle grew up in Chicago. Yeah, I was good enough. I got a basketball scholarship to Alabama State back in the day, but I didn't go. Why? Why didn't you go if you was good enough? Get free education. Now he was smart enough. He's very smart. So I'm sure academic was fine too. But he said one name, my mother. So my great grandmother on that side, that's my mother's side of the family, who's still with us to this day. She is she's a bit of, I won't say dictator, but dictator seems like it's the appropriate word for here. It's very her way or the highway once you set foot in Chicago. And I think she's very with love, of course, but very controlling to a certain point of her children and hell, maybe even her grandchildren. And so I want you to look at the relationships between those in your family who are closest to you. So probably your siblings, your parents, your uncles, again, for some of y'all, maybe even your grandparents. And I want you to particularly put a star by the relationship between you and your parents and mark it as either positive or negative. Mark it as either positive or negative. You see, I was having a conversation with a client and she said something funny in that she sees a lot of herself in her daughter. And she said that because we're distance learning right now. So that she said she heard her daughter talking with some classmates, and one of the classmates that she was on the Zoom call with hadn't done the work. And so the daughter said, okay, well, you didn't do no work, so you're not finna get an A off of my hard work, and kicked the little girl out the meeting. The mom was like, whoa, where did that come from? And then she thought to herself, it's like, you know what? That she got that from me. She got that from literally observing me. And that's something that I would have done when I was her age at that time frame. And I said, wow, so how do you plan on handling that? And she said, I plan on handling it a lot differently than what my mom did with me, because she recognized that her and her mom don't have the best relationship. Like it's okay, but it could be a whole lot better. But the reason it is the way that it is because of how she was raised and how that transitioned into the relationship with her as a young adult, which then transitioned to her as a mature adult with her own child. And so recognizing that her relationship with her mom, not so sweet, and it started with her as a teenager, the age that her daughter's at right now. So I'm going to intentionally say, let me give my daughter the grace, the mercy, the correctness that she needs in a positive way, not a constructive way, not a constrictive way, not coming down, whooping her, just to get my point across. But let me give her what I wish my mother had given me, so that we can get a different result and I can have a great relationship with my daughter from the time that she's a teen through her young adult years, because that's the type of relationship that I have. That's what I want you to look at and see. Who do you have a positive relationship with? Yep. Is it your dad over your mom? Is it your mom over your dad? Do you have a relationship with your dad? Do you have a relationship with your mom? Your cousins? Siblings? Grandparents? How are those relationships? Why are those? Are you do you get at odds with your parents so much that you get along with their parents? Sometimes I see that, parents have a great relationship with the grandparents, but not with their parents. And then the parents of those kids don't have a great relationship with that parent, but they have a great relationship with that grandparent. So you see, they start seeing that there are cycles in the relational breakdowns. And maybe sometimes it's daughter to daughter and son to son. Sometimes it's gender specific. Like the males in the house do not get along, or the women in the house do not get along, or vice versa. Maybe the women baby the sons. Maybe the fathers baby the daughters. Let them get away with capital murder. And so I want you to look at, for you particularly, in your generational line as well. So look at not just you, but look at your siblings as well, and see how the relationships are with them. So I'm gonna be full transparent. My sister, who is, how old is she? 2011. She turns 9 this year. She'll be 9 at the end of this month. Has a completely different relationship with my father than I have, because my father was at a completely different space when she came into the world. He was in his 40s. When I came into the world, my dad was 25, I believe. 25. Completely different mindset. So you're going to get a completely different father figure. You're going to get a father figure that is, more experienced. You're going to get a father figure that is more loving, and you're going to get a father figure, different perspective from a father to a daughter than a father to a son, the firstborn. And if I don't recognize that, I could harbor resentment. I could say, you didn't do that for us. You didn't go there. You didn't go there. But no, I look back and I recognize it's a different time. It's got a little bit more money now. It's a little bit more mature now. He's able to handle some things a little bit different now. But if you don't take a step back and look at the relationships between your family members, you're not going to see that. And literally, your experience, even though you may have been raised in the same house, might be completely different for your siblings. Completely different. Those relationships might not be the same. Those experiences, the same family vacation that you went on, it might not be remembered so fondly. But I want you to just start to dive in, because as you create your version of the good life with your family, those of us who are having kids, those of us who are setting the building blocks for our next generation, those of us who are creating our own families, you got to know what foundation you're building that on. If you build it on sand, the house will eventually fall. It's not solid. It's not on solid foundation. So I want you to know what it is that you're carrying in your health, in your wealth, and in your relational connections with your family. I want you to really think about that. So I know it's really serious, but it really hurts when I see a client and they don't have a great relationship with their parents. And it's not something extreme like molestation or abuse. It's nothing extreme like that, but it's just a simple misunderstanding, or I didn't like how they talked to me when I needed them. When I was going through a hard time, they just criticized me instead of comforting me. They attacked me instead of hugging me. They spent all their time at work instead of coming to my basketball games. They spent all their time doing this in the streets instead of being home for Christmas, instead of being there for the in-between holidays, instead of teaching me how to play catch, teaching me how to do my hair, teaching me how to talk to boys, teaching me how to talk to girls. All these things contribute to who we are as a person. And you will take that into your next generation. So let's make sure that we're taking the good things instead of the rough things. And let's also like reflect on what has happened in the lineage from as far back as you can figure out, and how can I take what I've learned from my grandparent telling me that he raised chickens on the farm, got the eggs, the pigs, all that good stuff. Like he went from that to me owning my own house, marrying a fine wife from the Bahamas, master's degree, business, laying the foundation for us to continue to run the race strong. What is it that you can say, how far you've come and where you're going? All right. That's all I got for y'all. If you like this podcast, please share this with somebody who really needs it, because we all need to reflect so that we can know how to go forward and not repeat the same mistakes, or learn the lessons that have already been learned. All right. So give us that 5-star review on iTunes. Share this with somebody who really needs it. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, share, comment, subscribe, all those things. And keep pursuing your version of the good life. Coming to you each and every single Thursday. I'll see you guys next week.